So, hi.
Hi.
Dave Rossum. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
The founder of EMU Systems, right?
Yes, yep, many years ago.
So it must have been a long time since you were at NAMM, right?
Yes, I haven't been actually working on the trade floor for, I'm at least 20 years. I think it was 1992 or 1993 when I was last here manning a booth.
So I was either 3 or 4 years old. So you've got it's a pretty exciting year for you.
Absolutely. I mean, we're launching a new business, a startup, and we've got 3 modules that we've announced in the past couple of days, and we're very excited about them.
Okay. So let's have a look at them.
Sure. We can begin with the Evolution filter. The Evolution is a low-pass ladder filter that was invented by Bob Moog back when I was relatively young. And I made some improvements on it when I was beginning my career in 1973. And the name Evolution sort of calls to mind the fact that I've just kept adding things, and the result is the Evolution filter. To describe it a little bit, it's a voltage-controlled frequency low pass. It has a feedback resonance the same way as the original Moog did. We call it a Q control here. And in the Evolution, that is voltage controlled. And one of the interesting controls is this Q level compensation control here. In the ladder filter, when you turn up the resonance, naturally the gain of the lower frequencies drops. This Q level compensation compensates for that, so you can dial in how much you want the classic Moog effect of the bass dropping out as you increase the resonance versus keeping that bass in. The things that we've added just recently, we call the genus and species controls. The ladder filter has what are called real poles in it, and the Moog had 4 poles in it. We've built a filter that has a voltage control of the number of poles in it in a continuous way from 3 up to 6. We added those cute little LEDs so you can hear when you're right on the pole, because it sort of jumps around between them. Let's do a sound example over here. If I play on the keyboard here, the resonance jumping around as it moves here. If we just take a raw one over here, I think we actually can hear that even better. Resonance jumping up and down as we change the number of poles. That's a really interesting sound. It's one that's not been heard before. So that's, I think, part of what's going to make the Evolution a must-have for people. This other control, the species control here, this at its lower settings, again it's voltage controlled, is a subtle control of the amount of distortion that the ladder's put in. As you turn the species control beyond the midpoint, it starts getting more into the grosser distortion, giving you really interesting, but still very analog sounding. Of course, the filter is entirely analog in its circuitry. So between those 2 controls, you get a really vast array of different filter effects. One of the fun patches that we've got connected here, this is a patch that sounds like it's speaking in Swedish. Let's put it. Child over there probably would work well for a Star Wars droid as well. And that's being done entirely with the Evolution filter, driven just off of simple oscillators. So our next products. The next 2 products are still in development, so what I'll be showing you is just things that have come out of our lab in the state they were in, and we polished them up just a little bit to show you at NAMM. They're both inspired from EMU's Morpheus MIDI module that came out in 1993, a cult favorite, and we have both the filter out of Morpheus brought into the Eurolac world, And Morpheus had a function generator in it that went all the way through the Ultra Proteus line with EMU, and we've expanded that and made it very appropriate to the Eurorack world as well. So let's take a look at those. If we come over and look here at the Control Forge panel, I can pop this into a mode here. The Control Forge has 8 different segments that can compose an envelope or segments of an LFO. And each of these segments can have its own characteristic shape. This shape can be something as simple as an exponential or even a straight line, little jaggedy, curvy things, all the way up into things that are chaotic in nature. Our diagnostic mode there. When you go to trigger, you can step through segments as this LFO is doing, and conditionally, this one has a condition down here, so it will continue to step through segments. And now this condition, because I turned this knob down, which also can be done with the control voltage, has now trapped it in the very beginning. So it's just going back and forth here. When I hit 3 volts with this control voltage, suddenly it takes off and heads through the other segments. You have that control on each segment. You also can control whether the segment's relative or absolute in voltage compared to the others, the different jump modes, jump targets, degree of randomness, just an incredible amount of flexibility. Beyond that, you also have a sequencer, so you can sequence between the different presets here. We also have at the show here just a little mock-up. You can see it over here. This one doesn't have any circuitry behind it. It doesn't light up. We call it satellite. But we realized with the Control Forge that this is too big a module for just an envelope generator. If we could make it in a smaller form factor and still have this programmability, it will be a lot more utility for people to have multiple sources. So the Control Forge will plug in from its trigger output into the logic input of a satellite, and you can dump its entire library of presets and sequencers over to the satellite and now use it. So you've got one master programmer and multiple satellite slaves. I think what is I've heard the most excitement about is the Morpheus Filter. This is really very young in its development. Unfortunately, I can't give you an audio demo, but you can see from the display here the basic idea. For those familiar with the Morpheus module, a Morpheus filter set comprised 8 different 14th order filters, very complex digital filters, and you could move around in 3 different dimensions within the space spanned by those filters, and this is a audibly sensible space. It is appropriate to music. So the Morpheus filter, unlike the original Morpheus module where only one of these dimensions was capable of being changed in real time, this module will have voltage control over all 3 dimensions, allow you access to the entire set of, I think it's 246 different Morpheus filter sets that we have, and again has a sequencer among presets, so you can design the details of the filter interface for your exact use, and then jump around between those in real time with your sequencer or using the control knobs as you're performing.
So it's almost like, so you're kind of creating a space with filters, and then you're a point which can move around within that 3D space.
Exactly, and so those spaces can increase the resonance, they can change the peaks, they can make the peaks cross with each other. It's just a vast space, and this, the wonderful thing is we were able to access the original filters in the Morpheus, which were painstakingly designed many, many years ago, and my hat goes off to the many people that contributed to that preset development back there. So we'll now be able to make those things live once again and in the Eurorack space, and voltage controlled in all 3 dimensions, which is really going to sound cool. I haven't even heard that yet. I've got it mocked up in the mathematical language I prototype in, proved that it works, but it'll be a few days after the show that I get to hear it first, and hopefully the rest of you will hear it shortly after that.
So kind of what made you want to step into the Eurorack market? Obviously you were making modulars back in the day, but this is kind of a completely different type of modular that you were making than what you were making.
Well, there's a number of factors in that. My partner Marco and I both wanted to get back into the music industry, and the opportunity came up. Our other investor, Universal Audio, stepped in, and that's formed. Those are the three people involved currently in Rossum Electro-Music. We looked at what we could do reasonably to kick off a business that was that modest in scope, and the Euro-rack market was growing. It was something we knew, we felt, we understood, and had a lot to contribute to. And very quickly we'd come up with the concept for these first 3 modules. They all seemed feasible, and they've proven to be. So that was how that was born. The other part of it is I've done probably the last 20, 25 years of my life, I've really been a digital signal processing and chip designer, digital chip designer, but I love analog design. I'm still pretty good at it. So Euro-rack is largely analog. I just had so much fun designing the Evolution filter. I'm really hoping that there'll be demand for other analog modules from Rossum Electro, and I'll get the chance to exercise my analog chops as well, because it's so much fun.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for talking to us. I wish you all the luck.
Oh, well, thank you very much. We're having a ball doing it, and I hope everybody has a great time making music with this stuff.
Thank you.
You bet.
Award-winning customer service. Fast, free shipping on most orders. Own the gear of your dreams today.